Oh, hi again. I literally haven't moved. I just wrote some notes and then turned the camera back on. I figured while I'm on a roll, I might as well talk to you about the day before the wedding and the wedding day itself. So, yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. We got married, as I've mentioned before, on the 12th of May last year. So the day before was all about setting up. We'd asked the venue if we could go in and do it all ourselves because I'm a bit of a control freak and I wanted to know what it would look like. I didn't want to be worrying on the morning like, oh, please say they've done it right. So the morning of the 11th, we packed up my aunt and uncle's Land Rover full to the brim with boxes and centerpieces and just everything that we'd collected in my old bedroom at my mum's for God knows how long, the past like 2 years almost. And we headed to the Priory, essentially. We went there with one of the tiers of the cake, I believe, on my lap. I can't remember how we transported it, but I'm pretty sure it was one of the tiers on my lap. And when we got there, we pulled up and we'd filled Stuart's car as well, and he'd gone to collect his mum. And we met there, unpacked the car, and basically just got started. We decided that setting up the centerpieces and the tables and all like the menus and the little bits and bobs would be the best thing to do first. Just to try and clear some of the boxes away, and that's kind of the easiest structure to do. So we put each box on each table, which is what I'd done. I'd labelled them all with what names needed to go on there, and the jars that needed to go on there. Everything had its own, every table had its own box, so made it nice and easy. So me and Stu's mum, we emptied all the boxes and started placing everything in the right place, and sort of sorting everything else out as we go. And my mum went back to collect the rest of the cake, and then when she got back she joined us, but she also was making sure the cake was all alright and doing any finishing touches to that and putting it in the fridge because I didn't want anything to happen to it. Oh my god, no. So yeah, we carried on doing that, and then we decided that it would probably be good to go get some food. So I went out to buy the bridesmaids some lipstick and nail varnish and things like that, so that they had that for the day. And I knew that I had an appointment to have my hair done. Knew that I was due to go to Dolly Mixtures in Hitchin to have my hair pin curled, and I thought, yeah, that's fine, I've got plenty of time, I'll get some lunch and then I'll go. Nope, I've got a phone call. Am I still expecting you? Yes. I'm sorry. I never miss appointments. I'm so organised and I still to this day feel bad for it. But she was so understanding. Sarah at Dolly Mixtures, she was pin curling both mine and my mum's hair, ready for the next day. So I have never run so fast, or let's face it, run in my entire life, from Superdrug to in Hitchin to Dolly Mixtures just around the corner, as fast as my little legs could carry me, essentially. And I was like, Stuart, you've got to go get me some food. So that was my only stressful thing on that day, essentially, was the fact that I was late to go and have my hair pin curled. But it looked fabulous when it was done, so that was fine. So we walked back from the salon to the Priory, where everyone else had gone back to and had their lunch. Stuart brought me some, don't worry, do not panic, I wasn't hungry. And carried on, but during the time in the salon I'd got panicked phone calls from my dad, who was driving around many supermarkets trying to top up the flowers because I hadn't bought enough. We had gone to a wholesaler's called Sabin's a day or two before to buy the flowers for the centerpieces because that was the cheapest way for us to do it. We knew that they would last, so it was fine. Yeah, they'd last if you bought enough. The ones that I bought were great, and then my dad had to go buy me some more and had to get ones that sort of matched at least. So that was another panic, but that was one that got all sorted by the time I got back, so it wasn't so bad for me. So yeah, when I got back, my mum, dad, Michelle, Barry, and Stuart's parents, Sue and Malcolm, were all helping, and obviously Stuart. But they were all helping, and by the time we got back, the lights and artificial ivy were up. They'd sorted out one of the potted plants out the front because it looked not as great as it could. And there was barely anything for me to do, so I did the top table centrepiece. I filled that with flowers, sprayed it with water and filled it with flowers because that was the Oasis, the S and the A. And then we set about deciding what to do with the cake. So one of the members of staff there that was looking after us made some suggestions, and we were like, okay, that's fine. And the final one was put it together, just put it where it's meant to be. Just put it there and we'll keep an eye on it. And it was cool enough because although it was May, it wasn't boiling. I haven't been, is it ever? But it wasn't, it was nice and cool in there. And it was in the shade, so we left it there and hoped for the best, and they said they'd keep an eye on it overnight as well. So yeah, and it turned out all right. Don't panic, do not fret. So once we set the cake up, as I mentioned previously when I was talking about making the centerpieces and the table plan, we'd covered them all up. So I sent my mum out to the car to get ready to go, and Stuart and I started taking off all the bags and taking pictures of what it looked like with and without them, and then took all the names, the card off the table plan as well, and that was lovely. That was a really nice little moment. So once we'd done that, we kind of parted ways, really. Stuart left his car there, so we dropped him back here. And then we headed over to Ickwell to return my aunt and uncle's car. But then when we got there, Mum realised she hadn't got her car keys, so there was no way of getting home. So we took it back again. It was a nice little visit though, so it was fine. We updated them on everything we'd been doing. So we got home, and on the way home ordered Chinese because it was already late enough as it was. Sat and ate it, and then got into bed and just watched some telly. I think we watched Celebrity Juice. Pretty sure that's what we watched. So yeah, that was the setup. It was pretty relaxed because I was so organised. So I would say if you're planning on doing that yourself, you can get companies to come in and do it for you. But if you're planning on setting up yourself, have separate boxes for each table. It saved a ton of time, because even if you know what's going where, if you've got people helping you, at least if you've got that all sorted, you can just give them a box and say, that table, that all goes on that table, do with it what you will. So yes, I'm very grateful for all the help we got, because I know that Stuart's mum did loads of the flowers for us, most of them, because I think I got maybe 2 or 3 done before I had to go and have my hair done. So yeah, we're really grateful for all the help, and if anyone offers it, just say yes. Just say yes. So the next morning, I had said goodnight to Stuart obviously the night before, and we weren't in contact at all, as tradition dictates. I woke up and Mum brought me some breakfast and a little prezzy and a little note as well, just to say, you know, good luck. And then I got out of bed, we put Good Morning Britain on. It was so chilled out. I love Good Morning Britain. We put that on and went downstairs, and I had kind of like a second half of breakfast. I only had a very tiny breakfast, so I had another one. Because I was starting to feel, not nervous, but I was starting to feel like the energy was getting to me. And I wrote Stuart's letter, because I bought him a wedding present and put a little letter with it, and then gave it to one of his ushers who was dropping off a bridesmaid, his fiance now. They were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. No, they weren't, they were engaged. They were engaged at the time. I'm sorry. Sorry. Yes, so they, she was the first one to arrive, Megan. And she had her makeup done with me by Zoe of Queen of Hearts Beauty, and I would thoroughly recommend her if you're in the Hertfordshire, Bedfordshire area, where I don't know where she'll go, but we're in Hertfordshire and she's here. She has done my makeup before for a previous wedding, and I just love her anyway. I knew her anyway, so I love her. And then, so I had my makeup, Megan had her makeup, and my mum had her makeup done as well, all three of us, and then the rest of the bridesmaids did their own. And they all turned up after they'd had their various bits done, so like hair, or I think they did their own makeup when they got there. I can't remember, I was in a different room. And I had bought them all little gifts as well. I'd done them all personalised hangers and put their dresses and petticoats on them with a little necklace with their initial on, and a little green gem, because that's the birthstone for May anyway, which worked well for Megan, but also one of our colours was dark green, so it worked really, really nicely. Megan's birthday's in May, that's why it worked well for her. So yeah, that was really nice. I told them all to go up there and get those, just so they could have something on the morning as a little surprise. And then we had Prosecco, well, we had Asti, because I love it, and I've still got a bottle down there somewhere. We had that and some pastries, and then I had one of my Cambridge Weight Plan bars as well before I left, because I wanted my energy up. But yeah, so once we were ready, I kind of brushed a bit of my pin curls out. I got Mum and Megan to help me as well, because something had to be stressful on the day, and my fringe, that wasn't at all bad at all. It looked really good, but I had to panic about something, so that's what I panicked about. But I brushed most of it out, and our photographer, Hayley, she said, why don't you go get your dress on and do your first look, and then she could go off to the church, because she would meet us there and take pictures when we arrived. So she took some pictures beforehand of my dress and jewellery and shoes and flowers, which you'll have seen in the last wedding-y video as well, some of those. And then when I was putting it on, she got pictures of Mum doing up the back of my dress and things like that. But I really, really wanted a first look photo, because on Christmas mornings and birthday mornings and anything like that, my dad has always taken a photo of me as I come down the stairs to see my reaction. So I wanted a picture of his reaction as I walked down the stairs, for like all in my wedding dress and everything. So I've got some really lovely photos of their reaction to Mum coming down the stairs ahead of me, and then me coming down the stairs as well, and then we've got like hug photos and things like that. So it's really, really nice. Really loved that. That's one thing I'm glad I had, because it's just really special to me. So once we'd finished hair and made sure everyone had everything, and Zoe had finished off our makeup and made sure we were all looking as good as we could, she just did an amazing job, honestly, and it stayed on all day and all night, because I'm an awful, awful person and forget to take my makeup off. Well, I don't forget, I see how long I can make it last. Until the morning, then I have a wash. And then we got in the cars to go to the church. So the bridesmaids went ahead of me, and we locked up and left, and me and my dad went in a car just slightly after them, but we were really, really early. I don't think I've ever been early for something in my life, and I thought I cannot be early. That's a bit keen to be early for my wedding. So as we were driving along, chatting to the driver, who was just incredible. He was so much fun, and he really relaxed. Well, I wasn't stressed, but he just made me even more relaxed, and just I really enjoyed the journey. So we stopped off at Chesterfield Downs, because we were like half an hour before we should be there, and just sat and had a little chat, and my dad got out of the car and took a picture and said, guys, where are you? We're here. Trying to trick people, but thankfully no one was on their phones. But yeah, so then we soon drove off and arrived at the church, and the bridesmaids were huddled under an umbrella, and we walked down and got a really nice picture in the porch with Reverend Dave. So that was really, really lovely as well. That's a really nice memory. And the church have even posted it on their Facebook page. It's lovely, it's so nice. One thing I will tell you, which is hilarious, is Megan came with us to the rehearsal. It's where like the bride and groom and the bridal party and the parents and the groomsmen all kind of find out where they're walking, where they're standing, where they're sitting, what to do. And she came along to that, and one of the ladies had very kindly said to her, please be careful, because there's a grate just by the step. And although there's a carpet over it, if you're wearing a stiletto heel, you'll get stuck. So she very nicely relayed it to the other bridesmaids. Who was the one person to get stuck in the grate? Megan. No one noticed. I didn't notice. She told me afterwards and it was hilarious. So that happened and she was right in front of me, so I must have been completely oblivious. We walked down the aisle, and then when we got to the end and we did all the bits, and then my dad had to lift the veil over my head, because I had I had one over my face, and then I had like, I think it was a church length veil. I can't remember, it's very long. And he had to lift the veil over my head so I could then say my vows and everything. And I didn't notice this either, which shows how oblivious I was. He lifted it, but it kind of stuck a little bit, like, and he went to sit down and my mum kind of looked at him like, what are you doing? Go and sort it out for her. And everyone was like having a little bit of a giggle. I had no idea, and I think even until I got the photos or the video back, I didn't know that it had happened. No one told me. So then they were like, oh yeah, I remember that. Thanks guys, thanks for that. So we had a lovely ceremony, and we had to do a fake signing. We did the real signing, but of the marriage certificate, but then we had to do a fake one because my dad had bought us some really lovely pens, like special ones, so that we could keep them and know that that's what we'd done. But we weren't allowed to sign it with those because it has to be a special one. As in like a official, I don't know what it is, it's one with special ink. So we had to do a fake signing as well for the pictures, so I'll put both of them in. Let's see if you can spot. I think my acting's very good. But yeah, so we did that, walked out, had photos, had the confetti throw, that was all lovely, and then headed back to the venue with the same driver who I love, and he gave us as much booze as we could drink. I downed one of them as soon as I got in the car, I think, and then we could have had a top up. I kind of wish I had now, but we got back and some of the guests had already arrived. We got passed by a few of them, which was hilarious because I wouldn't expect anything less. Mark and his RS. We just knew, we could hear it before we could see it, I think. So yeah, some of them were already there when we got there, and that was nice. We could just have a chat. And then we had photos. By that point it had started to rain, so I'll put in a photo of everyone running for cover after we'd had some of the main photos done. Because it's really nice, and although like no one wants rain on their wedding day, I really didn't care, and it's a sign of good luck anyway, you know. As long as I got married, I wasn't really bothered what happened. You know, these things, you can't control it, can you? But it made for some really, really lovely photos because everyone kind of knew it was going to rain. So we've got the official ones and then everyone running. And then I got trapped in the house, so someone came and got me with an umbrella. I think it was one of the best men that saved Hayley's bag with like all her camera bits in and everything. It's hilarious. Yeah, so I mean by that point we were kind of well into the swing of things, and it was just a very surreal day. Like, it felt like a normal day, but it felt it's very difficult, like an amazing, incredible day. It's just very hard to describe how I felt. So once we'd done that, we got introduced into the marquee where everyone was sitting at their tables and in their seats. And we had the speeches first, and traditionally you have them after the meal, maybe after one of the courses, I don't know. But we decided to have it first because we didn't want people to leave their food because they're so nervous, and that's something that was a tip that I got from Nicola, my friend who got married, and I'm glad I did it because I think they would have left food and I would have had to have eaten it. So really, maybe I wish I hadn't. It was good food. We had a really nice dinner. We had stuffed mushrooms to start, and then we had chicken wrapped in Parma ham with, I think there was some blue cheese in there. And then can't remember now. I can picture it, but I can't remember exactly what it is. Or brie. I can't remember. I'm bound to have photos. And we had a little mousse heart as well to finish, and then chocolate mints. Chocolate mints and coffee and tea. But we'd left like the little chocolates on there anyway, so people could get through the speeches with a little chocolate coin. And all the bridesmaids had love hearts in there as well, because I was just feeling really nice. Gave them some sweeties. So once the speeches were over, and they were absolutely incredible, we loved every single speech, and Stuart did so well as well. I'd not read any of his, and he made me cry, which, I mean, it's no mean feat. So after the meal, that's when my loo trip started. I thought, right, okay, I need a wee now. It's a gap that everyone's just moving about before the reception. So I'll go for a wee. I had to go to the disabled loos and take my mum with me, who then had to undo my dress every time. I had to just strip off, go for a wee, and sit down, because it was like, you know, you don't really get much of a chance to sit down, because quite rightly you want to talk to everyone and walk around, and I don't think I sat down very much at all in the whole evening. Only when I went to the loo, and maybe occasionally when I had a bit of a drink. I did have a bit of a cry later on as well. It's just a very, very emotional day. So yeah, that's what my loo trips were like. Long. But then we cut the cake, and I've got some really lovely photos of our niece, who was just impatient for cake, much like her mother. Could not wait for the cake, so we cut that, and we've got a few pictures without her, but we've got some really precious ones with her, and I love them. And there's one where she's standing there looking at the cake like, come on. And I will treasure those, because they're incredible. And then we had our first dance, which, I mean, I couldn't move for just ever so slightly before then. I had sat down and had a good old cry, because it was just overwhelming. It's so full of love, because you know that all these people are here for, they were there for me and Stuart, and to celebrate us, and that was really, really lovely. And every time I thought of it, I just started crying. So I got given some mint tea by Jane, and that's what I drank for the rest of the night. Mint tea. Didn't get drunk. I wouldn't change it for the world. But our first dance, I was still overcome with emotion, so I couldn't really move very much. Poor Stuart was trying to move me, and what I think, although it was annoying at the time, because they played the wrong version of our first dance, we had Absolute Beginners by David Bowie, and they played the really long version, which didn't start for about a minute and a half. So there was just like instrumental bit, and I was like, what do I do to this? Just sway? I don't know. And then when the lyrics started, we could sing to each other, so that was alright, but I couldn't really move very much, because I was just so, I don't know how to describe it, just overwhelmed. So I kind of think that's a bit embarrassing, people just watching me sway. But there's a reason behind it. But I think it's quite nice, because although they played the long version, that's also what happened to my parents when they got married. They played the longer version of their wedding song, of their first dance song. So history repeating itself. So I kind of like it, and I think I might just redo the first dance at some point. I'll film it, and then I'll put my wedding dress back on. That'll give me a good reason to still fit back in it. So yeah, we had the first dance, and that was nice, and then the rest of the evening was just, you know, talking to people, saying hello to people we hadn't seen in ages. I will tell you one thing, I did not physically see our buffet. There were too many people in front of it, for one thing, and I know that if I'd have wanted buffet, I could have had buffet. But I was so busy talking to people, and I wouldn't change it. I was so busy talking to people that I didn't have any of the buffet. I wasn't that hungry anyway, to be fair, and I had a little bit of cake. But that was lovely, and I wouldn't change anything of our day at all. Nothing, because it all made it what it was. We had pictures in the photo booth. We had just such a good time. I got to dance with Megan to Wilson Phillips, and that's one of my favourite things as well of the day. That was really good. And then we'd been given advice to not be the last people to leave, and it ended up that we were. So, just because we kept saying goodbye to people, and people kind of lined up to say goodbye, and eventually there was no one left to say goodbye to because they'd all just gone. So we spoke to the bar staff for a little bit, and then took a piece of cake each up to bed. And that was it, and we got some lovely photos that we took on our way back up to our room, bumping into people, and the party carried on without us until 2 o'clock, I think it was, in the bar. So, you know, people had fun, and that's the best thing about it. So the next morning we all got up and had breakfast together, and that was lovely. Standard bed and breakfast, you know, really, really lovely. Full English and some cereal, and I was making the most of it being my wedding weekend. So was Stuart, I think. And then we had the clear up, so they'd kindly cleared away most of the stuff for us anyway, and a lot of the stuff had gone because it was gifts and balloons and things like that we weren't ever going to take with us again. And then I had tried some of the cake, and I'll put a picture in of me trying some of the cake the next morning to see if it had gone stale or whether I could give it away. I just wanted some cake. And then I distributed the rest of the wedding cake when they brought it out. That was the main job, and they gave us some champagne or some Prosecco to drink while we were doing it, and that was really lovely. They didn't have to do that. It was just added to the celebrations, so we all had that, and yeah, shared out all the bits and pieces, and then headed home. And once we got home, we had another bit of cake and some tea. And then we opened up cards and presents, and I'll see if I can find Stuart's video, but I might not be able to. But I've got some pictures of like the pile of prezzies and stuff like that, and it was just really nice reading what people had to say, and just, oh, it was lovely. And we made notes to write thank you letters to everyone, so we did that as well when we got back from honeymoon. Yeah, and then I had a little bit of a cry because it was all over. Not that I didn't love every single second of it, but just that I had nothing left to plan. So now, whenever anyone gets engaged, I'm on that. I really want to help everyone. But yeah, that was it really. Wouldn't change a thing. I think that's the best thing, to not have anything that you regret about it or would want to change. Everything was perfect. So, next one I'll talk about the honeymoon, because that's what we did next. Packed for it. So I will talk about what we took with us, what we did. So if you're going to Barbados, then you might want to watch that because we did a lot. But if you just want to have a bit of a nosy, by all means, listen to what I've got to say. So I will see you next time.